love you're here. Oh,
Hello and good afternoon. I'm so excited today to be with Catherine and Reid, who is the founder of Doqit. So we met two female founders rise, and I've been loving watching the journey of Doqit as it's gone from an idea into an incredible product that's helping so many people. I will let Catherine introduce herself, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about why we're doing this first. So at Scale Up, we work with lots of startups and scale ups who are really on that journey. And especially prior to product market fit, there are bumps in the road and pivots that are needed. And where businesses really understand and really prosper is where they understand that they have a real goal to, that they've got a real end goal, and then that journey won't be a straight line, and probably the solution that they come up with in the beginning will at least evolve, if not change, as you go forward. And that's why these conversations that we're having in this season is so interesting. So without further ado, let me pass over and please tell us about who you are and what you do and your journey so far.
oh, thank you. It's lovely to see you, Lucy. And yes, we met through the incredible Female Founders Rise, which has given us all a lovely community to be part of, which is brilliant. So I'm Catherine Ann. I'm the founder of Doqit. My journey with this began quite a while ago when the sort of nugget for it started. My background is B2B sales and marketing communications, so worked through comms for a long time, like, yeah, over 30 years. Loved it. So typesetting, advertising, design, live events, great fun. And during that time, I had both my daughter, Chloe, who's got a rare genetic condition, she's got complex needs, and went through a divorce. Um, Both of these things were the sort of trigger for where my journey started because they both came with like their own rainforests worth of paperwork, and it was really really overwhelming. And I remembered at that time how that felt. It was like swimming in treacle. And as time moved on, and I was always quite an organised person, but it happened again. And it was mainly just through being a lone parent, running a house, working full time, and Chloe, where I found that I had what I call my files, piles, and clouds. So I had information coming at me, physically, like real world paperwork, digitally, PDFs, email attachments, spreadsheets, um, apps, platforms, and a bit of stuff in the cloud. And I could never find anything. I felt I was always playing catch up. And I think the tipping point was after 3 years in the bounds, paying my tax return late with money that I just couldn't afford. I thought, right, there has to be something out there that could help me. And at the time, business uh, admin was all becoming nicely organised and pretty seamless. And I thought, why is nobody doing that for people like me? Um, and that was when I decided, right, after speaking to people, I never just thought, I'm going to do this. I did make sure it wasn't just me that was sort of, using a Scottish word, living in a bit of a guddle, that there was other people. And it turned out everyone I spoke to had a story. And I thought, right, somebody's going to fix this. Why not me? And that was where the journey of Doqit started.
And how did you go from, obviously the sales, your sales experience helps you to know how to talk about something, knows how to spot a problem and to think about the solution, and then how to get other people on board. But it doesn't necessarily give you the tech, um,
No.
the experience to build a tech platform and an app that everybody can easily use without needing a manual. So talk us through how you got through that one.
So I think so. The first thing I did do was make sure that there was a problem and there was lots of research to support the problem. And there was lots of products out there that were helping do bits of it, but they were either in my opinion, they felt clunky or they were trying to do too much and nothing was like simple and easy. So going back to my background, my previous life, I had I worked in new media, I'd worked with digital communication. So although I wasn't working with sales, I was working with some really clever tech people. So the one thing that I did know was that I watched Star Wars and Star Trek. I knew that anything was possible, that if you could think it, it could be built. It was just down to budget and making sure you were going to build the right thing for your customer. And I always think back to I worked with a chap years ago, Sam Doqit. His mantra was always, who's my customer? What does my customer want? How can I give my customer what they want? And that has really stuck with me like over decades. Um, and if he's listening to this, he'll be pleased to hear that. He'll be thinking, yeah, it's stuck. So because of my background, I knew that taking a brief and a budget to like a digital agency, I might get something really beautiful, but I didn't know if it was going to work because I'm not technical. I'm also not a product person. So I knew or there was loads of stuff I didn't know that I didn't know, but there were elements that I did know that I didn't know. And we we spent quite a lot of time looking at who was going to be the best partner, and we opted for a venture builder who could give us that mix of product, front back end design, QA. So it was that full team that would help us create the product that was going to be right for the customer. And the interesting thing was, when we engaged with them, I had done a lot of research, and we'd done research with Glasgow University, with Edinburgh Business School, we'd done our own research, but actually they said, right, that's great, but we're going to do it all again. So it wasn't throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it was approaching things differently, doing new wireframes, different testing. And it was brilliant. So it was like their discovery phase for us was almost like a rediscovery, and it was making sure that when we took this MVP to market, that it was what the customer wanted. And actually, that's probably, if we're going to talk about pivots, where the first sort of pivot came, because it was quite different to what we'd originally envisaged. And the biggest difference was that it was much simpler. And that was what we'd always wanted, was something that really simple. But simplicity's hard.
It's the hardest part, isn't it? Because you need somebody to be able to come on and understand intuitively how to
Yeah,
use something.
yeah.
Not that they're going to need, to be going back and looking at the manual or to be having lots of calls with you, because obviously that's not scalable. Um, so tell us about going from the sort of MVP to where you are now, and what pivot, what pivots have you had? What changes has there been along the journey?
So it's been an interesting few months. So our MVP beta is what we've got just now. It's a web app. And where we started was our go-to-market plan was to go business to consumer. That was always my thing, for scale, for growth, business to consumer. Um, and we learned so much going that way, because ultimately Doqit is a consumer app. And for us to go right out the box at two businesses um, was too hard. And it was too hard for lots of reasons. We didn't have our ICP nailed, and we didn't tick procurement boxes, if you like.
Yeah.
However, we were still getting people signing up and importantly paying for it. So it was like, right, okay, what are we going to do? So we did launch with 5 SMEs. So we learned a lot from that in terms of what the marketing effort would need to look like. And that was going to be, for our stage of startup, it was going to demand far too much resource, both in terms of skills expertise and cash. So we had to rethink that. So we've gone on to, we're on a couple of great employee benefit platforms. So that's good because it gives us exposure and again helps us work out our ICP. But what we've done more recently is using the feedback that we've had from our existing users, and I'm working with another user group where we constantly speak with users, um, is where our next pivot is get on the App Store as a as an app that you would download. So moving it from web app to actual app and looking at the D2C market. Now, why are we doing that? So D2C will help us validate and nail our proposition and ICP, and it will also get us the metrics to go back to the business to business to consumer, because we need to be able to tick those procurement boxes, because our vision is that you would get Doqit from, say, your bank, your pension provider, your insurance company, a business like that. So therefore, they're going to be looking at reputational risk. And whilst a lot of these organisations will say, "Yeah, we support startups," they're like, "Yeah, we don't really," because it's reputational risk, and I completely understand that. So it's right, what are we going to do to get ourselves into shape? And keeping that community, because again, my background being sales, keeping those communication challenges, conversations open, so we're understanding the challenges that they're having, where we can come in and support them.
And tell me about the feedbacks. We love talking to audiences. Tell us about how you get the feedback and how you've been working with your initial users.
So we get feedback in different ways, but my favourite way is this. Tell me. Tell me about the challenges you're having. Tell me what you do. So it's not talking about Doqit. It's like helping me understand what the challenges are that people are facing, because ultimately, people are finding solutions because this is a fairly new space. So it's like, what are the solutions? How are they working for you? Do they work? Tell me how your life admin's making you feel. And the conversations that I have are just brilliant. I mean, everything from, I'll tell you one I had last week, and not naming any names, but he knows who he is. He'd been out clubbing. He said he hadn't been clubbing since he'd been to a disco, and this was ages ago. And he said he was asked for ID at the door, and he said, "Who knew that you needed to give ID when you're going out?" And I was like, "Well, I don't go out that often, so I didn't know." Anyway, he 1:30 in the morning phones his wife. He's a couple of sheets to the wind. Phones his wife and said, "Can you take a picture of my passport and send it to me?" So she did that. She's raging. He's in the club having a great time. But he said, "But now," he said, "I can put that in Doqit and I've got it." And I went, "Yeah, there we go. Doqit saves marriages." So that's going to be one new thing. But it's stories like that where people share their experiences of, and so it's not always about insurance products or warranties or subscriptions. It's about those real life things that just happen day to day.
I think talking to people about their current problems, motivations, how they found other solutions, what they like about those, what they don't like about those is so important, as well as tell us about your onboarding journey, tell us
Yeah.
about what you love about Doqit. The tell me the other big change you're making as you're going D2C is this web to app application. And
Yeah.
how big a change is that? How long does it take? Or
So it's not going to be a huge change. I'm not technical, so I know if anyone technical is listening, they're going to say, "Oh, let's hear what she's going to say about that." It's not going to be a huge change because what we've got just now actually works for people. And I feel that we are not sufficiently enough along in the journey to be starting to add new features. What we need to do is refine what we've got to make it more. We're talking about it being more elegant, so just easier, more seamless for the user, and then that next iteration of like big feedback we'd be looking for is what else do you want Doqit to do? Where else, because obviously with machine learning, AI, it will be able to do more for the user, but do they want it? And what is it they want? So what we're not going to be doing is jumping in and adding on bells and whistles unnecessarily. That first stage is making it easier, more seamless, and then we'll look at what comes after that.
Awesome. We've had so many experiences of getting excited and overbuilding features without really understanding. And at the end of the day, the user research will always say it's the simplest, most obvious things that people want, because they need to get used to that and build that in as a behaviour before they then think about doing anything fancy or difficult. Or
Yeah,
one of the classic
100%.
one of the classic ones was Monday launching If This and That as which was an extension where you could go and build your own sort of tools. So you could say, if it rains, add £5 to my rainy day fund, or if I go to the gym 3 times, add £10 to my treat fund. But hardly anyone used it because it was far too complicated. They all loved the idea, but what they wanted was somebody to put it in the app and go, do that. I just want to press a button. I don't want to have to go through the downloading and connecting and anything else.
I think people want things that are just easy and easy to understand. And as you said, they don't come with a manual. They just want to go in and go, right, okay, I'm here for this. This is what I want to do. And if there's a pair of, I always say this sort of flashing, sparkly shoes on a Wednesday night, you just think, I don't want that. I just want to do this.
Yeah, I think, and always going back to that, what do people need? What is the simplest, best way that we can make that easy for them? Because I think, and we've worked on plenty of things that are similar, that life admin isn't the end goal. You don't think, I want to make sure I know where my insurance things are. But what you want to know is, if a bad things happen, can I sort it out quickly? If I get ID'd on the way into a club, how do I get there without bringing my passport with me?
Yeah.
I haven't been ID'd for a while, I have to admit. What do you wish you know? There's no one's ever gonna do things perfectly, because this is all about learning and learning and learning. But so, what would you wish you'd known before you started?
It's really hard because there was I knew so little. I think that's the truth. And the biggest thing for me was the discovery of not knowing what I didn't know. And that was humongous because, and actually, when you're on Paradise Island, when you don't know what you don't know, you think it's kind of like you're starting out in the journey and you're full of excitement and raring to go. And then it kind of smacks you down the chops. It's like, wait a minute, what about this? And as all of that starts to unpeel before your eyes, you think, oh my goodness. But I have loved that. I think it's the joy of being a founder is every single day is a school day and you learn so much. But you do need to be ready to learn and sort of buckling up for um, making a ton of mistakes, but forgiving yourself because actually it's the only way you learn. And if you're not making any mistakes, you're not learning, you're not growing. But I don't think I wish I had known anything. I think I had an unrealistic idea of timeline. I mean, I remember my husband saying to me, so how long do you think this will take? And I said, I don't know, probably about 6 months. Hello. That crystal ball reading didn't come true. So I think everything takes longer. It requires more depth of understanding than you could you could ever imagine. Um, but it's really good fun, and you meet great people on the way. I think that's the thing. I have I've met people I would never have met before, like in my previous life, such a diverse group of people that are founders and business people, and it's really exciting, and it's great to hear what they're doing and things they've done well, things they've done badly, because people do want to share so that you don't make the same mistakes.
I think it's the energy you get and the excitement you get from meeting those people. And what do you say, like when people say, oh, someone that's back just at ideation stage, what could you tell them that could help them?
So there's a couple of things I would say is the first thing is ask for help. People are kind. People are busy, but people are kind. So never be shy about reaching out and asking for help. And there's some great communities out there, like Female Founders Rise, uh, Founder Catalyst, Startup to Stand Up, where they are just absolutely boiling over with great people at different stages in their journey, um, and who are all really willing to help. And see if someone says no, you're no worse off. You're still in the same position. So I think the first thing is ask. Um, and the second thing I would say is be cautious of advice that comes in at you from people who haven't walked the walk. The people say you should do this and you should do that. You know, make sure you do your interrogation of. So tell me, why did that happen to you? No, I read it in a book. Right. Okay. So just don't fall for seduction would be something that I would say. Be cautious of that, because again, that people are always coming from a place of good. It's not that anybody's trying to be smart or trip you up, but quite often advice that's given is not at a relevant stage when you're really, really early on. Um, and the third thing is buckle up. It's going to take longer and cost more. Um, and there's going to be days where you're going to wonder why you're doing this. And if you do have a day like that, shut your machine, go out for a walk, go and see some friends, because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's amazing advice. And I do think something we hear a lot from founders is that they're just overrun by advice and opinions and out of goodwill, but it could be from friends, people you meet at networking events, from your board, from your team, from your investors. There are so many different people that are going to have an opinion or think they do. And and how do you manage to juggle that? Because I know it's something that can feel quite overwhelming, as well as empowering and useful, because, oh my gosh, I've just got all these people giving me great advice. But it's also quite overwhelming because often just out of, for no sort of bad reason, they're quite often conflicting as well of pieces of advice. So how do you manage to filter out what you should know and what you should just thank people for and move on, or
Move on with it.
file in Doqit for when you're ready?
I think because I've made loads of mistakes, and so now I'm much more able to, and because I'm further on in the journey, and I know a lot more of what I didn't know before, and so I'm able to sort of cut through that. Um, but I think that's just through experience. But always asking, so that sounds good advice. Why? Tell me why. Tell me about how you've used that, and just to help me understand. And I think that can then help you as a founder contextualize whether it's relevant to you or not. I think the thing never to do is to try and go, no, you're wrong, or it's just thanks very much, because you never know. My dad had a great saying, you meet the same people on the way up that you do on the way back down, so you might be looking for help for that person. So graciousness and gratitude goes a long way.
Oh, 100%. And as you say, it's pretty much always coming from a good
Always.
place, isn't it? It's just whether it's relevant for you because you have such a deeper knowledge of your product and your
Yeah.
audience. and what can happen. And on that, I think one of the things you were mentioning before is you have really got a lot of value out of the different networks and the different groups. And something that founders often ask is, which is the right accelerator to go on, or which is the right networking group to join? And how do you, and my answer is, there's usually different bits you can get from different groups, but to be clear on what you want to get. But how have you found sort of navigating that? Because as a founder, there's a lot of invitations thrown at you, aren't there?
Oh my, do you know what? You could go to a networking event every single night of the week, and every weekend. So the thing that I do is ask, what value am I going to get? And you have to be quite brutal about it. Is this going to add value to my business? Is one thing. And then there's other things where I think I just want to see these people because actually it's lovely to meet up with kindred spirits because as a founder, your family and friends generally think you're nuts and wonder when you're going to go and get a real job. Why are you doing this? You could be earning big money up in the city. Why are you doing this? You're off your head. So understand the they just don't understand the grind and the highs and the lows. So sometimes you just have to, you know, go out and meet with people just to be sociable. Um, but I think it is about just saying, right, okay, am I going to get value from this network? And doing your homework, speaking to other founders that are in the community or association or accelerator. How did you find it? What did you get from that? Because there's so many different, as you say, accelerators, communities, um, and they're all good for someone, but they might not be right for you. So ask other people on it. What did they get?
So I'm definitely someone that's joined an awful lot of members clubs and different groups, being unrealistic about the amount of time that I'm going to be able to go and invest, because you don't get anything out of these groups unless you invest your time and your energy
Yeah,
in them. It's not something you just join them and therefore it just all comes at you. So
yeah.
it's definitely one that I've experienced. So I don't know if I might have enthusiasm and
I
to
mean,
to
I've
be part
done
of it.
I've done that too, where you think at the end of the week you've maybe been to five different things, and you think I've had a nice time, but did it move the needle on my business? And you do have to be really quite cautious of that because otherwise you've got no energy left to put into the business.
100%. It is. You need so much energy to keep going, don't you? And getting up and being positive every day and driving it
Yeah.
forward. Um, Thank you so much. I could talk to you all day. Where should people find out more about you? Where should everybody go and download Doqit?
So people can always find me on LinkedIn, drop me a DM, and Doqit, you can get a 45-day free trial, and you can cancel at any time. It's on Doqit, Doqit.io, and it's a web app. You can bookmark it on your phone for now. Any questions, any insights, anything you want to share, I am really open. Or if you just want to chat about life admin, drop me a DM and I'll happily set up a chat and tell you, share stories, tell you about my own journey and hopefully help. It's like anything, it's never going to be for everyone, and that's okay. I always say not everyone drives a blue Volvo, and that's okay.
Love it. We used to have a blue Volvo.
I've got a blue Volvo. Shocker.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And
Thank
it's such a
you.
lovely way to start a week. Have a wonderful week. And this is now live on our LinkedIn channel. And we'll also be sending a wrap up on Thursday in our newsletter. So look out for that. Thanks so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Great
day.
to see you. Take care. Cheers,
Bye
Lucy.
bye.
Bye.